Me and you last night talked a little bit about how we wanted to touch on the stuff going on with the Bounty Gate, and they had their appeal meeting yesterday with Goodell. And, you know, you saw this morning and last night, based on the interviews that the players did after the appeal hearing, it didn't go very well.
No, it did not.
But there was one quote that stuck out to me, and we've talked about this once before, probably about 2 months ago. And this is a direct quote from Jonathan Vilma. I don't know how I can get a fair process when he is the judge, jury, and executioner. You're assuming it will be fair, but it's not. Talking about Commissioner Goodell. And, you know, when we talked about this, I pointed out I have a huge issue with the fact that not only does Roger Goodell decide the penalties for players, but when they want to appeal them, he's the guy they have to sit down and talk to. I have a huge... No one man should be judge, jury, and executioner.
You know, there is no man that should be judge, jury, and executioner. Because think about it, all right? You grew up with both parents, right?
Yes.
Right.
Thank the Lord. I was lucky enough to grow up and have both parents in my household.
Okay, now, question for you. When you would get in trouble, all right, let's just say Mama Dukes would hand down the lay down, right?
Okay.
Was it Mama Dukes?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mama Dukes would be like, Dave,
I didn't want Dad mad at me. Dad, no.
Yeah, anyway. But still, you could at least... Mama Dukes comes up to you and goes, Dave, you're grounded for 2 weeks because, I don't know, you got arrested. Okay? Grounded for 2 weeks. Couldn't you then just be like, oh, you go talk to Dad. Dad, Mom just grounded me for 2 weeks. You know, you go and talk to Dad. You go and talk to somebody else and plead your case. I know maybe not your dad would say...
Well, I'd still do it. Dad would just laugh at me, though.
Your dad would just laugh.
Anything, but I know what you're saying. You had a different venue
that you could go to, and then you go and complain to Dad. Normally, it's probably you go and complain to Mom, and Mom would talk to Dad and be like, hey, maybe you're a little hard on him. You know, let's reduce it to a week instead of 2 weeks. You know, that's your appeals, is going to the other parent. That is your appeal process as a child. You try and pin the parents against each other to reduce your sentence, correct?
Yep.
Your punishment. That is not the case here in the NFL. In this case, it's Dad throws out the punishment, and then you're trying to argue with Dad, and Dad is just saying, ha, 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 no, it's still 2 weeks.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what it's like. It really is, and it's just not right. See, and I don't know technically if he took it too far, not enough. I think he did. But my thing is simply this, and me and you have talked about this between each other numerous times. How the hell can you sit here and say the New Orleans Saints are the only ones that do this? This has probably gone on in football through all 32 teams as far back as you can go. Mm-hmm. The only difference is, for some reason, somebody on the Saints blew the whistle, and they have these stupid, minuscule facts. Like, me and Joey watched some of the video today on SportsCenter, and we were like, how can you say that?
Yeah.
Like, you watch these moments unfold every day in a football game, and you're going to sit here and tell me that those are justified reasons to do this to these guys?
What was it, 2009 NFC Championship game? Minnesota Vikings versus the New Orleans Saints. They took video footage from that, from what they heard with the microphones of, I forget which player saying it, like Joe Vid's like, oh, Brett Favre, he's out of the game, he's done, he's this, he's that, blah, 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 blah. And one of the players you hear say, where's my money, Joe? Okay, what the hell does that mean, where's my money, Joe? You know how many different things that could be asserted to? And not only that, how come if you're just singling out the New Orleans Saints, why don't you take all the audio that you hear in every single locker room, on the sidelines with every single NFL team, and review it? Because I'm sure you will hear so much crapola.
Yeah, and what are you going to do? Suspend the entire league? I mean, let's be honest here. And that's my problem with it, is the simple fact that if... You know, and the players screwed themselves in the CBA when in the collective bargaining agreement, they gave Goodell this power.
They agreed for Goodell to have this. They agreed to it.
I don't get that. To me, why don't you go out there, you make a little committee, 5 guys, you know, 3 owners or 3, you know, league officials, guys that work for the NFL that are worried about the NFL brand more than they're worried about a single team, more than they're worried about any player. They are worried about the NFL brand. 3 guys like that and 2 ex-players. So 2 guys that can relate to exactly what that player might be going through. And then you got 5 guys and you still put the favor in the NFL's hands by giving them 3 votes compared to the 2 ex-players. So you're still keeping the favor in the NFL's hands, but you're giving the players a fair shot with guys that have no direct connection with Roger Goodell in the scheme of the appeal process. Goodell made his decision. Well, now it's time for us to talk to you about it and be able to make a group decision or vote, you know, 3-2 or 4 you know, however they do it. I don't think it's right that one guy sits in a room with a bunch of guys trying to defend themselves and he's like, come on, dude, let's be honest here. If you bought those chalkboards and I tried to look at you and say, dude, those chalkboards aren't good enough, would you look at me and listen to me? Or would you be like, dude, I just went and spent $7 on this bad boy?
I would take this and hit you over the head with it.
Exactly. You made your decision. Who am I to tell you to change it?
My $7 would be very well spent if I could hit somebody with this. That would be awesome. I'm not going to front. But...
would be awesome. Can't front.
It would be. But I see exactly what you mean, bro. This is just nonsense going on in the NFL today. I actually think Goodell overreacted to everything. Like a year suspension for Vilma, a year suspension on the coach? Bro, how often do you hear a coach get suspended for a year?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a little ridiculous to me. I was thinking maybe like 6 to 8 games. But a year, wow! Like at first, when this first all came out, I was very for Roger Goodell laying down the hammer on this. But as everything keeps coming out, I'm thinking to myself, man, he made a mistake. He really did. I think he should have reduced everybody a little bit.
He overdid it, and I agree with you. It's a little ridiculous at this point. And when it comes down to it, there's nothing that's going to be done. And that's the worst part. There's no way for the players to change this. They agreed to this for the next 10 years. So there's nothing well, now 9 years left. There's nothing they can do to change it. And that's the worst part. And like, I feel bad for Vilma to a certain extent because he said so, you know, Goodell took 3 months to tear down what I'd done in 8 years. But my issue with him was take the sunglasses off. I'm sorry, I have a real big issue with people trying to say they're not lying and then they can't even look you in the eye. Sort of have a problem with that one, but that's besides the point. But yeah, I don't know, man. You got Vilma, Will Smith, Anthony Hargrove, Scott Fujita all sat down and had their appeals hearing on Monday. And based on all their reactions, they all understand that they're not going to get their sentences reduced or changed. Based on how they reacted. And it's just a shame because, you know, maybe a committee of a group of guys might feel differently. You know, but why would Goodell make this decision and then decide, oh, because you guys sat here with me and talked to me about it, I'm going to change my mind? Why would he do it?
I don't know.
There's no reason at all for him to do it. Like, you use that comparison of, you know, if I get arrested, mom grounds me for 2 weeks, I go to dad might be like, you know what, that's a little rough, we'll give you a week. If I just waited an hour and went back to mom and said, Mom, really 2 weeks? She'd be like, hell yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I mean? And it's the same concept with Goodell, and it just doesn't make any sense.